Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, I don't know who needs to hear this again. It's July 1st, right? It's the second half of 2020. And woo, did 2020 throw us a curveball, right? Like, thank God our industry is one. I looked this up the other day after Barry Habib's talk. Our industry is one of 3% of industries in the industry. We are part of the 3% of industries in the nation. Sorry, I said that wrong. We are part of the 3% of industries in the entire nation that are having a better 2020 than a better 2019, right? So in the chat box, how many of you guys, or if you're watching on Facebook, how many of you guys were around in 2009, 2010? Interactive part of the coaching in the chat box. Yes, you were in the mortgage, housing, real estate, 2009, 2010. Let's again in the chat box. Zach was not. Yeah, Victor was around for sure. Victor, you were around in like 1910. Tess was around. Eric was around. Yeah. Tracy was. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So a lot of us were around in 2009, 2010. And if you guys are on Facebook, do me a favor and just leave a comment if you've been on. You know, we unfairly just got kicked in the nether regions in 2009, 2010, right? Everything was our fault. The industry, the economy, the world, politics, everything was collapsing because of evil mortgage people, right? Liar's loans was something that came out of the left of politics. The evil arms is something that came out of the right side of politics. Like, it just didn't matter. We were just being held down and kicked and kicked and kicked and told what pieces of junk we were and how we wrecked the world economy. So here's where I want you to be grateful going into the second half of the year. This year, Kobe Bryant died. We've got killer wasps or hornets or something. We've got, oh man, every time I say Kobe Bryant dies, I just get a little like teared up. We're dealing with COVID-19. Everybody's had some personal or societal tragedy in their life. Some of us live in neighborhoods that have been burned down. Like, it's been a shitty 2020 for 97% of Americans in business. And in some way or another, it's been a shitty year for 100% of Americans just across the board, right? Well, if you're around in 2009, you got unfairly villainized. If you're around in 2020, you're getting unfairly rewarded, right? It's not our fault that we're all closing more loans than we've ever closed before. It's market forces, interest rates, politicians continuing to print money and drive down the cost of borrowing money. These are all good things for us. And the first thing is, I want you to be grateful about that. Be grateful and be a little humbled by the things that are totally out of our control, that are positively affecting 3% of businesses in America, of which we are part of, and are unfairly affecting 97% of businesses in America, which we are not part of. So sweet, we can pull the grateful card and be like, hey, we really got unfairly kicked in the teeth 10 years ago. Now we're being unfairly rewarded in 2020. And then this is the part that I don't know who needs to hear this, but I know I need to hear this at least once a week. And yesterday when we interviewed Dale Vermillion in the Generate group, which I highly recommend you go back and watch that interview with Dale. It's like 29 minutes. He's coached over 100,000 loan officers. He's been in this game for 25 years, somebody that I look up to. You know, he reminded me something that I need to be reminded of, and I think all of you need to be reminded of constantly is, you know, be solution-oriented and control the controllables. Be solution-oriented and control the controllables. Like, I've gotten to some really dark places the last 6 months of like, what does this mean for our country? In the last 60 days, what does this mean for our country? Like, where is this headed for California? Where is this headed for Los Angeles? Even this morning, I was so frustrated. I was reading through articles. If you look at my Facebook feed, I posted this morning at 5:30 a.m. something about like LAPD officers only need 800 hours of training, but to be a cosmetologist in the county of Los Angeles, you need 1,600 hours of training. So cop with a gun, 25-year-old blonde girl from Orange County with scissors in her hand, 1,600 hours of training, 800 hours of training. Like, that pissed me off, but guess what? I can't control it. Like, why I posted that, why I was willing to start a fight. Like, I need to get in touch with this idea of like, we can control the controllables, right? I can control the safety of my house and maybe my community, right? I can control what's going on in my business life. I can control the fact that, hey, I'm going to vote, and whatever the outcome of the vote is, it's just going to be what it is for 2 years at the local level, 4 years at the federal level. I can't control anything between now and then, right? Like whether I want to impeach Trump or Biden or hate either of them or both of them or whatnot, doesn't really matter, right? Can't control that. So coming up with this idea constantly of like, hey, we should be grateful for where we're at in business. Number two, focus on controlling the controllables, right? Your health, your family, what you eat. You know, I had a friend of mine posting all this craziness the other day about all the stuff that we should be doing, non-GMO and all the stuff the government should be doing and blah, 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 blah. And meanwhile, she's morbidly obese. And I was just sitting there and be like, you know, put some good food in your mouth before you start ranting nonstop all day long on Facebook about what everybody else should be doing worldwide, because you can't control whether Monsanto is genetically modifying wheat. But what you can control is not eating McDonald's for lunch and Domino's for dinner every day of your life and being morbidly obese. I digress. I won't tell you who that person is. So control the controllables, right? Maybe for me, controlling the controllables means stay off of social media and not getting fired up. And then the last thing is be solutions oriented, right? Everybody is at capacity. The mortgage business has effectively done as much business in 2019 year to date in 5.5 months as the entire industry did all of last year, right? And you don't, in any business in America, you don't double production and you don't double business without some frustrations, right? Like, show me anybody who's ever doubled the size of their company or doubled business or doubled profitability and not had major growing pains. That's where we're at. There's just not enough qualified bodies to do LOA work. There's not enough trained processors. There's not enough trained doc drawers. Like, the system is just tapped out. But one, we should be grateful about it. One, we should control the controllables. And last but not least, we should be solutions oriented, right? So the other day I had 2 appraisals that are blowing up in my face that are going to cost me $1.5 million, $2 million in refinances. I was super angry. I feel like we could get an exception. We could go down that whole rabbit hole for hours. It's multi-unit property with unpermitted bonus accessory dwelling units. Anyway, I feel like we could get a waiver from Fannie Freddie, and we're not willing to do that. So instead of calling and ranting and screaming at people, which is what I really wanted to do, I said, hey, let's have, I even started the conversation like this. Let's have a solutions-based conversation. What can I do or tell the client to do so we can get this loan closed, right? That immediately diffused everything with the appraisal manager I was talking to, came up with solutions. One of the 2 we can't save, one of the 2 we can save. Hey, I'll take it because they're both refinances that were never going to happen if rates weren't low. And it's still an extra $800,000 loan in my pocket that I didn't have 90 days ago, unless the government just kept artificially keeping rates low. So again, be grateful where we're at, that we're being unfairly rewarded for what we do as a career. If you're around, you know, in 2009, 2010, consider this your vindication. Number 2, focus on the controllables, right? You can control what you can control. Everything else is just noise and bullshit. And number 3, be solutions-based. Be solutions-based with your clients, with your processors, with your team, with yourself. Just those are my 3 ideas for today. All right, guys, I love you lots. And anytime you're feeling a little angst, just come back and watch this post in the Facebook group. All right, if you're watching on Facebook, leave a comment, hit the like button. Let me know, 1, if you were in the business in 2009 and what your takeaway from today's call was. All right, love you guys. Talk soon. Bye.